Every self-improvement book ever written contains the same hidden flaw. They all assume the problem is what needs to be added. More habits, more systems, more morning routines. Miyamoto Musashi won 61 sword duels without losing once. He did not win by adding techniques. Across the world, 2,000 years earlier, Seneca was writing letters to his student Lucilius. Not letters about what to do more of, letters about what to stop. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it. A sword master and a philosopher. One spoke through steel, one spoke through ink. Both arrived at the same conclusion. The problem was never what was missing. The problem was what stayed. Most sculptors add clay, build up, layer by layer. This sculptor removes, chips away everything that is not the figure, until what remains could not have been otherwise. Musashi called this principle hyoho, the way of strategy, not the accumulation of skill, the elimination of everything that interferes with skill. The self-improvement industry is built on the opposite logic. Every quarter, a new framework, a new identity stack, a new version of the self to install. The list keeps growing. The self keeps shrinking. Psychologist Barry Schwartz gave this pattern a name, the paradox of choice. The more options available, the less likely a decision gets made. Not because the options are bad, because the brain cannot commit to one path when it is still holding all the others open. The sculptor in the workshop knows this feeling, standing before the marble, chisel in hand. But instead of cutting, ordering more tools, more reference books, more technique videos, the marble waits, untouched. The self-improvement addict is not lazy. Laziness would be simpler. The self-improvement addict is a sculptor who keeps adding clay to a statue that already has a shape and wonders why it keeps losing definition. Musashi saw this in his opponents before every duel. The ones who carried the most technique were always the slowest to move. Too many options, too many remembered forms. The sword hesitates between them, and in a duel, hesitation is the wound. In the Book of Five Rings, Musashi writes one line that most readers skip past. Do nothing that is of no use. 5 words, that is the entire framework. Not do only the important things. Not prioritize correctly. Remove what has no use. What remains is the path. Draw the same stoic line, but apply it differently here. On one side, what is actually moving the needle. On the other, what is creating the feeling of movement without moving anything. Most of what fills a self-improvement routine lives on the second side of that line. Seneca spent the last years of his life in voluntary withdrawal from Rome. Not retreat, not rest, subtraction with purpose. He wrote, "Retire into yourself as much as you can, not as escapism, as excavation." The sculptor does not find the figure by looking at more marble. The sculptor finds the figure by removing everything that hides it. Seneca called this otium not idleness, but the deliberate clearing of space so that what matters can surface. Here is what Musashi and Seneca share that the self-improvement industry cannot sell. Subtraction requires more courage than addition. Adding a new habit costs nothing but time. Removing something, an identity, a commitment, a belief about what the self must be, costs the story told about the self. Musashi abandoned his home, his family, his social standing not to become ascetic, but to become precise. Seneca resigned from the most powerful court in the world, not to escape ambition, but to stop letting ambition own the day. Both men lived out what Barry Schwartz would later put into words. The mind that holds fewer commitments executes each one with more force. The sword with the cleanest edge is not the one that has been sharpened most. It is the one that has been used for fewer things. In the next 24 hours, do not add anything to the self-improvement list. Instead, take the current list. Apply Musashi's filter to each item. Does this have use, or does this create the feeling of use? Anything that only creates the feeling, remove it for 30 days, not forever. 30 days. Observe what the absence reveals. Musashi fought his last duel at age 30. He spent the remaining 33 years of his life not fighting, but writing, painting, and practicing the tea ceremony. Not because the sword was gone. Because the sword had become so precise, it no longer needed to prove itself. Seneca, in his last letter to Lucilius, wrote, "I have withdrawn not only from men, but from affairs, and especially from my own affairs, his own affairs, the ones he had spent decades building. He cut them, and in the space left behind, he wrote the letters that are still read 2,000 years later. The sculptor is already inside the marble. The only question is whether the chisel will be picked up or whether more clay will be added instead." Musashi's discipline outlasted 61 opponents. Seneca's letters outlasted an empire. Both survived not because of what was built, but because of what was cut. What is on the list right now that only creates the feeling of progress? That is the only question worth answering today.